a pocket knife called a We Banter. We Banter, We is a China high-end knife maker. So this knife is probably what you'd consider entry level for mid or high grade knives. So it's moved outside the realm of budget. It's well-rounded. I do everything that is non-threatening in appearance, under the three inch limit, so it's legal to carry everywhere, and just an excellent quality. And I think this one fits that bill really nicely. This started with just a G10 scale. This is actually upgrade carbon fiber scales. I just kind of wanted to go over the basics of the knife, how it opens, how it closes, how you can clean it, how you can take care of it. Let's start here. So the basic structure of the knife. You have what are called scales. And there is a show scale. So that's the side usually that has the manufacturer's icon on it. And the clip scale, so that's the side that has the pocket clip on it and tends to have the pivot screw. This is a pivot screw. It is what tightens down the blade if you get to the point that the blade becomes loose over time, which it really shouldn't, but if it does, that's where you make the adjustments, or if you're taking apart your knife, which you really shouldn't have to. Then you have what are called thumb studs. So on this one, you have thumb studs on both sides, both the show side and the clip side, and I'll show you how those work. And you have your pocket clip, and then you have what are called body screws. So these are screws that are holding the scales together, as well as the stainless steel liners underneath the scales. And then you have two standoffs. So if you look in the back ears, you'll have these titanium standoffs back here. That's what kind of creates the spacing between the scales that the blade lives in. And then you have what's called a stop pin. That stop pin is what engages the blade when it's fully open, so it doesn't continue to swing backwards. Okay, opening. You have lots of opening options with this knife. You have the old standard two-hand, just open it. Okay, I'll show you closing in a minute. So you could just open it, right? Now, technically what you'd want to do with this is kind of get your middle finger here, your other finger on the clip, index finger up here, and then you kind of grip the knife like a pinch grip, kind of like that, okay? And then you just take your thumb and you can do what's called a slow roll. And what I usually do if a slow roll is towards the end, I kind of snap it so it locks in place. So I'll show you that again. That's a slow roll, okay? And if you notice, this is a good time to show you how the lock works. When you slow roll it, you'll feel two clicks. Watch this little bar right here. That's what's called a liner lock. That's what locks it open. You'll see it, the first click, it slides over a little bit, but then the second clip is where it locks. Boom. And you see how it slides behind the tang of the blade. So now at this point, there's no way for this knife to shut without you moving that liner lock out of the way. And that's essentially how you unlock it. So if you look at it from here, you can see that liner lock here. You push it out of the way, and then you can close your knife, okay? So let's go back to opening real quick. So you have slow roll, you have two-hand opening, okay? And then you have what's called the thumb flick. Now this is, you gotta get a little bit more comfortable with the knife, but essentially you stick the meat of your thumb right behind the thumb stud and you just flick outward. So I'm just essentially going like that, just like that. And then it opens, okay? So now different knives have different geometry. This one you kind of flick upwards. That's it, just like that, boom, okay? Then you have the next opening, it's called the Spidey flick or the reverse flick. So you're actually using your middle finger on the clip side. So I'm still holding it just the same. I'm gonna stick the meat of that finger right there, okay? And I'm just gonna, again, flick outwards. I'm just going like that, okay? Either way, you wanna be comfortable. The slow roll is the controlled opening. And when I'm in a group setting around other people, I generally am going to open the knife like that, controlled. The nice thing with a high quality knife is no matter how slow I open it, that lock will fully engage. Boom, all the way in. Okay, so you want to confirm with your knife that if you do that, it locks up nicely. okay? That's the first thing you always do with your knife is confirm that it locks, okay? Locked up nicely. All right, closing. I kind of already did that quickly, but this is a liner lock, so it means that when it's locked up, that liner drops behind the tang of the blade. All it has to do is be pushed out of the way. You can close 2 hands, okay? You can also push it out of your way and close with that finger, like that. Just watch these fingers. You don't want fingers here when you're closing it, okay? You need to have your fingers out of the way, okay? Over time, I tend to close these knives once you push the liner out of the way and you get past that first little click space that I showed you earlier. At that point, there's very little friction, and I just shake it closed. And you can do that fast, like that, or you can do it slow, okay? But in the end, the point is when I'm closing it, I do not want my fingers here, okay? Because it will cut you if you sling it back on your fingers. Okay, so that handles opening. Remember, 2-hand, slow roll, thumb flick, index, middle finger, reverse flick. Closing, push the liner out of the way, 2-hand closure, push the liner out of the hand, 1 hand, watching these fingers, right? Or what we call drop shut, slowly, or drop shut quickly. Again, keeping your fingers out of the path, okay? Let's see, what else to go over? Okay, basic cleaning of the blade. Do not use weird solvents if you get, and you get a lot of this because basically these are fancy package openers, so it's your Amazon killer, basically is the way I look at it. Alcohol's your friend, so just a little bit of basic rubbing alcohol, spray it onto the blade, okay? Take some type of microfiber cloth, always wipe towards the blade. Obviously, you don't want to cut yourself. And that solvent will get a lot of those residues off the knife. You can see I have some residue up here at the front from some packaging tape. And that, if that residue gets on there and stays long enough, it just kind of discolors the blade a little bit. So I'll clean it. Then all you need from there is a little mineral oil. Now I have specifically a knife oil, which is a specific Camilla oil, but all you need is mineral oil, just basic, not petroleum jelly, mineral oil, all right? But anyway, put a little mineral oil on it, okay? Use a paper towel or something to rub it across the blade. That just kind of conditions it, keep it from rusting, and then just wipe it down. Now, if you're gonna store your knife for any extended period of time, give it a little wipe down with mineral oil, close it, put it in a drawer and store it, okay? So alcohol to clean it, mineral oil to protect it, okay? Don't get the alcohol up in the joints and everything like that. Pivot oil is oil that is specifically designed to go into the pivot. In this pivot, there's actually ball bearings. There's 2 rings of ball bearings, one on each side of the blade that compress between the scales and the blade. So there's a ring and it has little balls in it, okay? And so over time, if you get dust, debris, sawdust, dirt, stuff like that, it can get in there and mess your knife up. Now your options are take the knife apart, but you probably shouldn't be fooling with that. Otherwise, it's just spraying it out with compressed air, cleaning it real well. And if you look at your knife and you look at it from the back side, okay, so I'll lift it up and look at it from the back. So I'm looking at the back of the blade here. You'll see there's a little notch right on top of the knife. And what you'll do is you'll just take this little bottle and you'll put 1 drop, sorry, my hands are shaking, on each side of that blade. Maybe 1, maybe 2 drops. And then you just slide the blade back and forth to work it in, okay? Now I'm gonna open it all the way, close it all the way, open it all the way, close it all the way, blow it out a little bit. If you get any extra in here, you don't need to use a bunch. If you use too much, it'll just trap up more crud. So you really want to use a small amount, okay? So now those bearings on each side are lubricated, and if it gets dirt or crud, having that lube in there, eventually it'll help get the crud out, okay? All right, the last thing is your pivot. You do not have the pivot tools. Do not use a screwdriver. Do not use a hex key. These are called Torx bits. They are specific for pocket knives, and we're essentially using a T8 to adjust the pivot, T6 for the body screws. But essentially, if you bring your blade out and it's real loose, meaning it's like pop, 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 right? This thing is tight as a tick, okay? But you can go in here, put your T8 in, right? And then you can tighten by turning righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, just tighten it just a hair so that you don't have the play, but it still has that nice glide to it. It should glide like it's glass once it's broken in, which can take some time. So a tool like this is great if you start doing what I do, which a lot of people aren't, or if you want to maintain a knife. T8 for the pivot, T6. Well, let's check that. Could be that they're T8 everywhere. Yes, they're T8 everywhere, which is kind of nice. Okay, last thing is sharpening. For the most part, you don't have to do a lot of sharpening. Please, let's do not take this through an automated sharpener that you see for the kitchen or one of those cheap-ass sharpeners that they make for kitchen knives. Okay. And what it does is it has guide angles built into it. So what that does is it sets your knife at the right angle to glide across. So realistically, all you're going to need to do is use this white side and then the side that looks like leather, and you'll essentially set your knife on the glide, okay, which sets you at the right angle, and then you just try and keep that angle and you pull across the knife, okay? Come to the other side, keep that angle, right? And that's all you have to do. Now, you're much better to keep a knife sharp than to let it get too dulled, where you'll have to get a real sharpening done, which is going to be a lot harder if you don't have all the tools. The trick is keeping that angle. Then you go to the strop side, which is the leather. So again, this was at a 20-degree angle, and you're moving the blade away from you, 20 degrees towards you, and you're just trying to maintain that angle. So it's got that angle died to help get you set. Okay, see that? Okay, when you get to the stropping, it works differently. Now you're dragging the knife away from you. Again, you want to recreate that angle, so all you do is hold your knife flat, lift it up to where it won't just slide. So if you notice here, see how it's sliding? Don't want that. I'm going to lift it till that edge catches. There it is. And then I'm just going to drag away. And I'm just basically using that same angle. So this is stropping like you see in the old days when they used to take a leather belt and right? All that does is it just kind of refines the edge, gets any of the little burrs off the edge, so that what you end up with is a nice screaming sharp blade. So when you take your blade, you should be able to take a piece of paper and just take it. No real burrs, right? This is pretty sharp. Okay. Not perfect, but not bad. But I do use this knife a lot. Okay. So I think hopefully that helps. I don't know if yours came with a little case or anything it goes inside of. I hope it did. It was just a small, fairly inexpensive sharpener, but it can do the basics on the fly. It's not a reprofile, and if you go out and just trash this edge, it's going to need professional resharpening. So again, get that angle. You just let the weight of the knife do it. Don't push down, okay? It's not designed for you to like manhandle through it, okay? Just the weight of the knife, just a little bit of pressure. And then on the reverse, find the angle, and then just stroke away, stroke away, stroke away, okay? Typically on a sharpening, if you let it get dull, you might have to do 30 or 40 passes. Just depends, okay? All right, so I'm not sure if you have any questions or if that helps, but it was kind of fun for me. Everyone should have one good knife, right? Thanks for joining us today, and hit that subscribe button. See you soon.